everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast, Motivation Assist podcast. Really interesting one for you this week again. I am delighted to be joined by Jack, who has done our program, and this is very interesting for adolescents who may be listening there, or any parents who have adolescents, because we do obviously cater for adolescents also. So Jack, you are very welcome, and thank you for coming in to see us today. You started the program when, Jack?
It was October 2016. Was my first consultation.
Okay, and you would have been in college then. You were telling me, in what year in college were you?
So I was just starting my second year in UCD. So it was kind of, I suppose, a busy period in terms of social life and obviously academically as well, but a lot going on overall. So busy.
Okay. And tell me, what weight were you, can you remember back then?
When I started, I think I was around 95 kilos, which is, I think, nearly 16 stone, just under 16 stone.
Okay. And you obviously picked up the phone and decided to come into Motivation. Tell us how all that happened.
Yeah, so I one day I just happened to be passing a flag there on the way to Rathmines, and it just happened to say motivation on it, and I thought that looked interesting. It said motivation, weight management. So I just basically kind of mulled it over in my mind for maybe the rest of the evening. Googled it, looked it up, got the number, and I went to go give a call. Funny enough, I was kind of embarrassed about admitting to myself that I needed to do this, so I hung up the phone the minute I think it was Sarah answered the phone saying hello, motivation. It was a tough moment, because you kind of have to admit to yourself that you do need to do this. So I think I went out and made myself some dinner, and I kind of was thinking about it a lot, and I just went back in and I said, look, just get over this, you have to do it, and that's that. And you know, that was the start of the journey. Then appointment 2 days later, and I was in.
Okay, so you were 19, is that right, at that stage, when you picked up the phone? So a brave thing to do. Yeah, absolutely.
A nervous thing to do. Yeah, it was definitely a hard one. But I mean, I'm very thankful of it now. But it did take that second phone call to get through. Yeah,
to do it. And tell me, had anybody mentioned your weight to you and said maybe you could do losing weight, or was it just your own? Were you thinking about it yourself, and you know, what made you, do you think, actually pick up that phone?
Yeah, so I think definitely there was never anyone very close to me, like my family or friends would never say to me. Obviously, you'd have people, you know, acquaintances that might make a remark about, you know, college. They call it the college ton or whatever. You know, you kind of put on weight when you go into first year in college. Tends to happen anyway. But yeah, I think I definitely knew it. I'd known it myself, without a doubt. And definitely people had made remarks to me, and I was always conscious of it. But it was kind of, I think it was. I was always pushing it back. Obviously, it wasn't as if I wasn't weighing myself. I knew I was going up the scales, but it was kind of, I will do it. I'll wait till next Monday, or I'll wait till the start of the next month, or New Year. Or there was always a constant pushback of when I would start. So I was conscious of it myself, but definitely, you get a few quick remarks either around the hurling field or somewhere like that. So I think I definitely was. I always had it in my mind to do it. It was just a matter of buckling down and actually getting onto it, I suppose, you know.
Okay, and you mentioned you play hurling, is it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, how was your weight affecting you then when you're at 19 years of age when you're playing hurling?
Yeah, so I mean, I was always you know, I was a decent size for my age growing up. I wasn't ever overweight. I don't think anyway, but I was always that kind of bigger player, and definitely when I was 19 and I was 16 stone. I'm only 5'9", 5'10", so I wouldn't be the tallest of chaps, but I mean, it was bulky. I was that kind of big full forward that no one liked to mark, but definitely I was, you know, hurling's a quick game. You can't be slow, and I was definitely feeling that a lot. I wasn't able to keep up, and I think even from that point of view, definitely I wasn't getting the results I wanted, and I wasn't as good as I wanted to be, and it was holding me back definitely a lot. Okay,
so today you are 77 kgs, so it's 169 pounds, so that's around 12 stone 12 pounds. What difference has that made? I presume you're still hurling now?
Yeah, hurling away. Yeah, definitely. It's been a huge change in my life. I mean, it was just I go from I play out the field now, which is a bit different. I'm definitely a lot lighter on my. I can feel. I know. I remember I was talking to Gillian along the way when I was losing the weight, and you feel a huge difference in yourself running, and just the weight on your frame, I suppose, is a lot less. I mean, it's about, I think it's 18 kilos. Is it? You know, it's a huge weight to take off your body. And now there's certain aspects of it you're not as you're not the rock as much anymore hitting lads, but different things change and you kind of adapt to it. But no, it's been a huge positive change to my sports career and every other aspect of my life, really. You know.
Okay, so we'll be watching. What I'll be watching out for you on the leaderboard, huh?
I'm not sure, but we'll try anyway.
Yeah, brilliant. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, Jack, and if you're okay in talking about this, the last couple of podcasts that we've done, we have focused on males, and particularly men. The fact now that, thank goodness, men are more open, and young men like yourself, about their feelings, and certainly that sports is a big thing. But if I can ask you, how did the weight affect you? Personally, did it affect your self-confidence? Did you feel, or how did you feel? Very conscious of how you looked. If you're okay to talk about that.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, definitely. Obviously in college you go out quite a lot. I remember one night I kind of started wearing jumpers a lot, going out even in summer. A lot of sweating going on, as you can imagine. It was hot, but I mean, I had all these. My mum is great for buying nice clothes for us, I suppose, at Christmas and birthdays and stuff. I couldn't fit into it anymore. I remember I used to wear a jumper and a shirt underneath, and I wouldn't even have the buttons closed and the shirt underneath because I couldn't. So I mean, no one else could see that, but obviously I knew about that a lot, and it was something when I think back at it now, it was awful, really, being like that. But I think in other aspects, I mean, that's just one thing. But when you're talking out, or like lads, you feel so part to a lot of people, and I think it affects my confidence. My girlfriend at the time, I was still to this day, but it was, you feel quite self-conscious of that, and thankfully I was able to turn that around, because a lot of people feel that they can't or don't, which is a shame. But I think just myself in every aspect of my life, I'm definitely a lot more at ease with myself. At the time I was kind of bottling it all up. I was very I think definitely in a bad humour. I think when you're going up close sizes and stuff like that, even though it's not actually it's not that big a deal, but it is to you. I mean, some people might think it's a big thing, but a lot of people, like, say if you're getting a large or an extra large or whatever, it's just very it's all these little niggle things that your mental health the whole time you're kind of just worried about. But definitely, I think as it went along and the way it got down, I only kind of realised, looking back, how I actually was. It wasn't at the time that I felt overly sad, or I suppose to an extent you'd say depressed. I think it's only in hindsight you can think, God, how did I let myself get like that? I think it's definitely a big thing.
Yeah. So you didn't see it at the time to say.
Yeah, I think it was just when we started going, it changed, and you felt great about yourself then, and things were going well.
And thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem at all.
It's very, very helpful to listeners to hear your story. With regard to, you touched on it there, mental health and how you're feeling. The mental weight questionnaire that you would have done every month, do you think that helped you create an awareness to your habits and your behaviours? How did you find that questionnaire?
So definitely, I think it was a way of it asked a lot of questions that you wouldn't ask yourself normally. Things like how often do you eat your meals? Do you eat your meals slowly? Like, they're the simple kind of practical ones, and then you have obviously stuff about your mental health. Are you depressed? Have you felt depressed in the last week or two, or whatever? And I think it kind of keeps you on track for thinking about those every month, and then you can obviously mine went from not so good to very good, so it kind of changed dramatically, and that was quite. I'm kind of one of those people that's numbers and stuff when it's quantifiable. It's nice to see progress. So I think going from the first mental weight test to the last one was definitely a big satisfaction to see it going very well, and it was all in the blue and it was lovely and healthy again.
Great. I have your file here, and I'm just going to see, I don't know if I have your actual mental weight. I actually do have your mental weight report here. I hope I have the first one. I do. Okay, so this is really interesting. Just so happens I have your file in front, and if you're okay for
Yeah, no
me
problem,
to
yeah.
say. So when you started off, your very first mental weight was on the 17th of October 2016. You did the report. Your mental weight, Jack, was 19 stone and 9 pounds. And there were, first of all, to explain that to listeners, that would suggest that your habits, your behaviours and your attitudes were comparable to someone who weighed 19 stone 9. So you were actually thinking the same attitudes and thinking the same as someone who was 19 stone 9. You're right, what you mentioned, quite a few reds there,
Yeah.
with quite a lot, actually,
Yeah.
quite low scores, weren't they?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in play there, I suppose. Confidence, your own attitude towards yourself, and yeah, I think I mean, as you can see there, it's not so good.
Yeah, lots of red. Well, there's no goods and bads, but certainly we'd say there are areas to
Improve,
work on,
yeah,
to improve. So that was your first report, and then your most recent report I have was actually done, the 2nd of May, so very recent, 2019. And I mean, look at the difference. It's but people can't see this, but again, we can explain it through words. Your mental weight on this date, 11 stone 7 pounds. So that suggests that you're thinking and behaving more. Do you feel that yourself?
Thinking I'm too good, I think.
Yeah, you think you're too good. Well, you've been honest in answering the questions. Yeah, you weren't tricking the system.
I think that was a quick one, but yeah, no, definitely.
But it's overall, and again, this is just a guide, but it's a really, really good guide, and it is to create an awareness. That's what the whole thing is for. But you can see the difference, all blues and the pinks there. Again, it's a little slow down. Do you still eat that a little bit quickly?
Yeah, I think that's probably the problem. Busy days, leads to quick meals. But yeah, I think it's try to keep the meals as long as I can.
But when you started off, it was less than 10 minutes.
Yeah,
so that's a big. It's all improvements, absolutely. So your overall behaviours, you can see all excellent, all blues. Your motivation level, your self-image, all the things there, stress and emotions, all big, huge change there. So well done, absolutely brilliant. Do you find? Did you find the one-to-one made a difference? We've often we hear guys and men saying that there's no way I'd go into a group, and it's mainly women or whatever. Was that important for you?
Yeah, definitely. My mum had been involved in organising a lot of kind of weight loss groups for women in our in the local area, I suppose, which is ironically enough that I happen to put on a bit of weight, but
she's going to kill me now.
Yeah, no, but she obviously, for women it tend to work for them. I do feel, for me, I used to come every Thursday morning at roughly around 10 o'clock, and it was a huge accountability factor, because it was the first time I think in my life I'd been as consistent as I was with my meals and stuff. And I mean, you always had to face into Gillian on Thursday. That was the problem. I think that was the scare. You just didn't want to go up anything but up. Even if it was the same, you'd be disappointed. But at least it wasn't. At least I think I only was on the same weight. I think twice in the whole from October to March, and I don't think I ever went up once. So I mean, it really obviously worked for me. I was consistently down, and even if it was half kilo or less, it's something very small, once I was down, I was happy coming out. And it definitely, any weeks that I kind of tuned it in, I'd really be looking forward to the Thursday, to kind of get that satisfaction. Now, sometimes it didn't work out like that. It was as much as I thought it might have been, but it was very much a really satisfying way of it, because I mean, you get to know obviously your you get to know Jenny very well, and it's quite, you enjoy kind of coming in eventually. At first it was a scary things we were doing, but definitely it changed how I approached it, and it was a good way of keeping accountable. I think I respond well to people. At first it was kind of like, I don't want to give her any excuse to be given out to me. So I think that
Gillian never gives
no,
out.
she wouldn't, but thankfully she never had to either. But yeah, I think that's for me, that was what changed a lot.
Okay, so the accountability,
Definitely,
a big
100%,
thing
yeah.
for you. Brilliant. I'm interested in I'm listening very closely to what you're saying there about the scale that you were aiming for, kind of, always for it to be perfect or whatever. And I'm looking here, perfectionism, was that that's a little
Yeah,
trait that's
I'm
yeah.
a bit of I'm self-critical, all right, at the best
Okay.
times. But
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
if you're not critical of yourself, no one else kind of will be. But I don't think
That's it.
Gillian would appreciate me saying that.
Yeah, but again, it certainly it was a lot lower, that perfectionism score, when you started, because
Yeah,
it's sometimes we find that with clients, if it's all or nothing,
yeah.
and if you're putting too much emphasis on the scale as weight, that's not a good thing either. Which is why, did you enjoy looking at the body fat and muscle? Did you enjoy that part of the program rather than just going by a scale? Did that make a
Yeah,
difference for you?
yeah. I think it's a lot of people get hung up on the stones and the pounds or the kilos, and it isn't always about that. I mean, my visceral fat went from, I don't know the exact numbers now, but it did go from quite high to very little. As well as that, like the kind of cutouts of fat that they have in the offices there in motivation is kind of like, this is a kilo of fat, this is how much I've lost this week, or and I yeah, exactly. And I used to love those kind of I'm a very imagery kind of driven person, but I mean, it was just, yeah, I think people get hung up sometimes on the scales a bit too much. It definitely is important when you're overweight, but if you're overweight that is healthy, I mean, you should be looking more at your body fat percent and your I suppose your BMI can be helpful. And there's other things that I kind of learned a lot from with Gillian, that it was kind of, it wasn't just about going down the scales, but obviously that is nice too when it's especially when you're overweight. Going down in scales is often important, but it's not the be all and end all.
Brilliant, brilliant. So the last thing I want to ask you, what would you say to adolescents and younger adolescents, particularly, because we see adolescents from the age of 13 upwards? What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I definitely think just don't be afraid to do it. It's I spend a lot of my time. I spend too much of my time thinking about actually doing it and not doing it. It's a small investment in your health. The way I look at it, and just not just your physical appearance, but your mental appearance. Like, as you said, I thought I was thinking like I was a 19 stone kind of person, and you spend if you spend too much time thinking about that, you just get yourself down, and just don't waste an opportunity. When you're, as Gillian always said to me, I was hitting everything at the right time. I was 19 doing it, and I'd know it for the rest of my life. So the great thing is I don't feel like I'll ever be in that position again. And just the earlier you get it done, the better. Because if you are unhealthy and you're not feeling the best, it can go away, and you can have that kind of lifestyle that you want, and just go for it.
Yeah, fantastic. And the most important thing, I'm always saying this all the time in clinic and in podcasts and everything, that the maintenance part, coming for checkups, is so important. The same way, if you for teeth, you go to the dentist, for health, you go to your doctor. If you have a weight issue, and I've seen you, this is the first time I've properly met you, and it's lovely to meet you. You're a lovely young man. I do see you come in regularly. You come for those checkups.
Yeah.
So that obviously is. Do you think that's helpful?
Yeah, no, it's not as intense. I mean, it's not once a week like it was during weight loss, but. For me, if I do go up a small bit, or and it will happen, you will come up sometimes. You will go down. I mean, I think the lowest I ever was in maintenance was, I think I went out 75 once, 75 kilos, and I think I went up to around 81, 82 at one stage. So like it does vary, but I mean, if I wasn't doing that, it might slip up too much. It might. So it's definitely a way of keeping the show on the road, and just kind of tipping it over, and knowing when you're doing something wrong or when you're doing something right. So definitely it's a huge part of how I'm able to stay the same way that I am, or in around the same zone.
And that's over a period of 2 years
Definitely,
now.
yeah. I
You've
mean,
kept
since
it off.
March 2017, I've been coming in once a month, or every 3 weeks. So it's been definitely key to me staying at the same way that I have been and keeping myself happy.
Absolutely fantastic. Jack, you're so inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing the podcast. We really
problem.
appreciate that. I hope that it'll inspire any adolescents listening out there, and I will definitely be watching out for you on the hurling pitch.
Well, you could be a long time waiting, but thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Thanks for coming in,
Thank
Jack.
you.
Take care. So, listeners, that is the end of the podcast for this week. I hope you found it helpful. And again, I think Jack's message is very strong, not to keep thinking about it. Just pick up the phone. We know that's a difficult thing to do. And we look forward to talking to you soon during the next podcast. Take care. Bye for now.